I'm Scott L. Miller. It's the 10th of July, 2023. This is my vlog of daily life living in Nicaragua, and today I am bringing you the show from Peñas Blancas and Tingüe. This is the border zone, La Frontera, between Nicaragua that I'm looking at and Costa Rica behind me. Dominica is already on the ground, has come through, and is in the border. I'm just waiting to pick her up. I've been driving all day. I'll tell you all about that and more about the border after the bump.
Take me home, take me on a ride. I got a good feeling about the colors lighting up your eyes. Take me home, take me to the sky. I got a good feeling. Tell me the only thing you are is mine now.
Today is a long driving day for me, not because it's so far to the border, but because I'm going all the way to the border and all the way back. And I've got to do some furniture shopping on the way back as we combine multiple things on every trip, because it's what you do. So from Leon to the border is between 3 and 4 hours. Google says 3, but reality is you drive slow, you get stuck in traffic, it depends on a lot of things. And of course, you want to stop and do things, and I stop and do things. So that happened a bit. So it took me about 4 hours, but I was killing time because I was running ahead of schedule and Dominica was running behind schedule. So it made sense to take some extra time, but I'm here at Tingüe, or Peñas Blancas, at the border zone. So that's La Frontera, or the border between Nicaragua right over here and Costa Rica, which you can't quite see, but is right behind me. This is the line of trucks waiting to get over. So I'm going to show you where we are to give you an idea of what you're looking at. So if we look north into Nicaragua, I'm going to try not to get run over here. This is a major road. This is the Pan American Highway I'm standing on, but it is the border. So right up there, there is a traffic circle that will take you towards different things. And as we come around here, it's a little bit hard because the line of trucks is so long. I'm going to walk around a little bit and give you guys the view. I've got time to kill, so this works out just perfectly. This is duty-free, Tingüe, Peñas Blancas. So you can see it here. So this is the duty-free zone. Galaxia manages the main duty-free shop, and Durfee is there as well. So all of those shops, now right now they're closed. I have no idea why they're closed. This is a normal day for business, so I'm not sure what's happened. I can see a few people sitting out with hammocks straight here in front of us, but normally over here, this is all a line of traffic and lots of cars. There are bathrooms in there. You need to bring money and toilet paper if you're going to use them, but there are places to use the bathroom. There are shops if you want to go buy anything. So a lot of people do stop at duty free. It is, but it's only so exciting, and their selection is only so big. Normally, on most days that we come down here, the trucks are not backed up this far, but there are often trucks waiting, as you can see, up the hill. They tend to wait back there because it's a lot more relaxed. But here, there are actually so many trucks right in front of the border that in order to approach the border, you have to go into oncoming traffic, which of course is very little. There you can see the cars and the motorcycles driving on the oncoming direction. And that hill you see behind them is a volcano in Costa Rica, just in case you can see it. So we're right at the border. This is as close as I could get without it being a problem from being so close, just because there's no space up there. Sometimes there is. A lot of times we're able to park like right at the border and it's no problem. Just pull over, sit in the car, whatever. But today it's mayhem for whatever reason. So I'm a little ways away. I mean, I could be there in 2 minutes, right? Not a big deal. And it is walkable, but not if you have a lot of luggage. So just waiting for Dominica to make it through, and then I'll be picking her up. So that's really the thing you got to know here. Be aware if you're driving down from in either direction, really. Trucks take forever to get across the border. So the lines of trucks will go way back from anywhere that you're likely to be. So as you approach the border, you're going to run into these long lines of trucks from any direction. This will happen on the Honduran border as well. And so be prepared for that as you get closer to the border, you're going to have to work your way around these trucks. Sometimes you go to the right, sometimes you go into oncoming traffic on the left. It's not always clear. And if you're going to drive across the border, which is not very likely, very few people drive across the border, which is why you don't see traffic coming on here. Mostly it's buses and commercial traffic going over the border. If you own your vehicle or you have special licensing on a rental, you can drive over the border. It's not that you can't. It's that the average person doesn't own a car that's allowed to go over the border. Company-owned cars aren't allowed to cross the border, for example. So it's just not that many. And of people who do own cars, not very many of them want to go crossing the border. Costa Ricans don't tend to vacation in Nicaragua. Nicaraguans often can't afford Costa Rica. So it's not a popular destination from either side. So you're basically only looking at business traffic or foreigners. And when foreigners go across the border, typically they don't own cars and they're being brought over by bus, taxi, or walking the border. So that's kind of why it works the way that it does. But this is the zone. This is where you approach. And I'm just a little ways up, hanging out. This is a perfect place to wait. I'm not in anyone's way. I could be here all day. No one would care. I've got lots of space, and I've got a lot of beautiful greenery behind me with some beautiful pastures. So it's great. We have wonderful weather today. It is heavily overcast, so I haven't seen the sun all day. It rained early this morning in Leon, like rained, like scared the dogs rain. But other than that, it's been very, very pleasant. I didn't have any more than a few drops on my drive, even through El Crucero, where it typically rains. And I was able to get some footage of different areas for you guys. I did some 360 shots today. It's been pretty good overall. So I'll tell you about the day. All right, so we have some time to kill because I don't know how long Dominica is going to be at the border. She has a bus in front of her, so that could mean it could take her 15 minutes or it could take 3 hours. You just never know. At least when you have a car, you can go pretty quickly. If you've got a truck, you're going to be here forever. And thanks to the guys who just shut off the truck idling in front of me because they saw me turn on the camera. They're like, oop, and they shut it off so I can hear. Now it's actually really quiet out here once the brakes release. It's beautiful today. It's 29 degrees most of the day, most of the places I've been, which is incredibly pleasant. That's what you would want to air condition your house to most days. And we have overcast, so I'm not dealing with sun today. It was a perfect day for a drive. Traffic wasn't bad. I stopped at a few Miradors on the way to do some 360 shots for our sister channel, Nicaragua 360. I took a couple quick shorts as well. I didn't do a ton of extra stuff. I wanted to make sure I was down here for the day, and if I was going to kill any time, a semi coming by, that I'd be doing it down here rather than up on the drive somewhere, because if anything went wrong, I didn't want to be late getting to the border. Dominica has been traveling all morning. She got up in Houston this morning with a lot of luggage, got on a Southwest flight going to Liberia, Costa Rica. She got in fine just after noon. It was a little bit late getting to the border. She was expecting to be there just after 2, but really got there almost 3, which is fine. And she's already through the Costa Rican side as I record this. She's in line at the Nicaraguan side with that bus in front of her. I got up pretty early this morning, got a few things done. We actually had a problem getting today's video, which is 7 days before now. So the one you would have seen on the 10th, that went live on the 10th, which would have been the video from the 3rd, the one on the house in Guadalupe. Wow, it's hard to keep track of that stuff when I'm making this video on the day of, but so you won't see it for 7 days. So the one oh wow, it's hard. Anyway, that one had problems uploading and I didn't know if it was going to make it. So I had to jump up this morning and make sure you had a video to see, but it worked during the night. So I was able to have kind of a normal morning, did some prep, got the car taken care of, got the kids ready for me to be gone for the day, and was out the door at about 9:30, which is pretty relaxed. I stopped in Sutiava and got coffee at Dr. Coffee, and stopped and got gas as I was leaving town. So it was after 9:30 by the time I was out of town. By the time I was leaving Leon, it was probably between 9:45 and 9:50. It may even have been as late as 10. So actually it was probably it was almost certainly after 10 by the time I had coffee, but I wasn't in a big hurry. So that gives you kind of a gauge as to where my day was spent. Really good drive out through southern Leon, through Managua. You go through the west side of Managua. While I was going through the west side of Managua through Villa Carmen, our friend Leo actually passed me on the road and honked, and so we drove together for a little ways. He was heading to the airport, so completely different paths once we split at Nicaragua 169, the Managua bypass. But he went on to the airport and I went on towards Costa Rica. But it was funny. It's funny what a small country it is that people on a random day driving to the border, you will pass people you know on the highway. And the fact that he passed me on the road, not like going opposite directions, going the same direction, he passed me to get in front of me, which is, there's only got passed by like 3 cars all day. really shows what a small country it is. You do know everyone really quickly. So my drive all the way down was great. I stopped in the El Crucero zone to film a couple of the Miradors there. It's such a beautiful area. I love the views of Managua from there. It's absolutely fantastic. So I stopped and did that. Ran into a lot of traffic in Ditiambra. That slowed me down by 10-15 minutes. And then I stopped in Hino Tepe, which was my goal all along, knowing that my favorite Malaysian restaurant is there. All vegetarian food, amazing menu. It's pictures in the shorts. Go check that out. And great lunch. Always happy to be able to stop there. And got some coffee at Cafe Alethea, which is on the same block. Like it's all right there. It's great. And the city has a lot of street construction going on, so there's very little traffic around the city, but it's very hard to get around still. But I was able to park on a street. It was all really easy today. I'm getting better at maneuvering Hino Tepe. It's a small but confusing university town. But the coffee was great. The food was great. I did have Cafe Alethea. I don't know if they knew they did this. They put my coffee, to-go coffee, into a plastic bag. And I just took the plastic bag and I put it in my cup holder thinking nothing of it, like I'll open it later. And after I was, in Granada, I was driving south and I'm like, oh, I want my coffee now. It's probably cooled down a little bit. Open it up and the whole bag was full of coffee. The cup had been leaking like crazy. So I like pulled it out and I'm like, oh no, what do I do? Because I'm driving. So I put the coffee back in the cup holder, but I know it's leaking, so that's a mess. And I'm holding this bag full of coffee. That's a mess. I was eventually able to pull over, empty out the bag, throw it in the back seat. Luckily, I still had my coffee from Dr. Coffee this morning. Not my coffee, the coffee cup from Sutiava this morning. Took the Cafe Alethea, put that into that, was able to avert a total coffee disaster. I could have ended up covered in coffee today and did not, but it was a near thing. But it was all delicious coffee, so at least that much is good. And the overall drive was just fantastic. Very little traffic. Everything was easy. Nothing went wrong. Really good food. Good stops. Got good views everywhere. And I was here at the border by about 3 o'clock. So if you're doing your math, that's about 5 hours to get to the border. But remember, I stopped at least twice for coffee. I stopped at a gas station to fuel up. I stopped twice at Miradors to record, and I went and got lunch while on that trip. Plus I ran into traffic at Ditiambra. Put that all together, easily I spent more than an hour of doing extra things I didn't have to do. Google says that the drive here should be 3 hours. We always say that it's 4 hours. It's probably, if you came straight here and weren't dilly-dallying at all and just hauled as fast as you could probably be here in about 3 to 3.5 hours. Realistically though, allow yourself 4 hours. And in many cases, you are gonna want to stop and get lunch. There are really good food options along the way, although you do have to plan for it pretty heavily. You don't want to just randomly say, I'm hungry, where am I going to stop? Because you will run into disasters. I'm going to turn this around because the Tika bus has just come through the border and I'm going to let them come through behind me. We always talk about the Tika bus and how to get from place to place in Nicaragua. This is the big bus that takes you between the countries. They go everywhere in Central America, from Panama all the way up to Guatemala. They're based in San Jose in Costa Rica, and it's a really good way to get around. So I've never actually ridden on them. I've ridden on some of their competitors, which have also been good. But the Tika bus is by far the big one. They're the best known, probably the most expensive, probably the most luxurious, and definitely go to the most locations. So it's worth being aware of them, and you'll always run into them here at the border. That they just came by means there's a really decent chance that Dominica is really close to coming through immigration, because that is probably the bus she was waiting for. Dominica is almost through customs, but she doesn't have enough ones on her. And I don't know what kind of problems that's causing, but it definitely causes problems. If you're coming through immigration in Nicaragua, into Nicaragua, or really if you're leaving Nicaragua, have a lot of ones on you. I recommend having about 20 ones and maybe a couple fives. You want a little bit of flexibility. In general, the most you're ever gonna have to pay is $14, but you don't want to be in a position where you aren't able to make change. Bad things can happen, mostly that you'll overpay, but you don't want to cut it too close. Remember, if you carry $20 through in ones and you spend 14 in ones, you're gonna still have $6 at the end. It's not like you're losing the money, you just have extra cash to carry around. Don't cut it too close. It should be $14 one direction and like 12 the other. It's not a ton of money, but it's a pain because it's often pay this person $1, this other person $1. It is not a get to the door $14 and you're done. It's little bits that add up to $14. It's a huge pain. always have a lot of ones, just bring too many. It's one of those things you have to know, right? Have enough change to be able to get through the border. It's a change thing more than anything else. And if nothing else, have extra money, because that generally helps, right? Oh, I don't have exact change, here's an extra $1 or $2. Well, fine, right? The person working there will make the change for you later, trust me. So that's a little tip for getting through the border. Once she finally makes it through, I've got to zip down through all this crazy traffic, which is nuts over here. I'm gonna pop the camera so you can see behind me. That's the border over there. And I'm kind of in the way here in just a second, but I'm gonna have to work my way up there to pick her up, and then we are heading north to Masatepe, where we have some furniture that we're picking up from our furniture store from Muebleries Lilium. She has a custom-made parrot cage for us. Long story, but we're getting a parrot apparently. They have suddenly released a lot of trucks inbound from the Costa Rica side, and it's really loud here for a minute. We're gonna be right back. I had to stop the recording pretty quickly because Dominica was at the border and suddenly through. She actually got through pretty quickly. I saw a bus go by and I'm like, I wonder if that was the bus that was in front of her, and immediately she's texting me like, I'm on a tricycle and I'm on my way, get up here. And I was parked so far away, I had to jump in and head up really fast, but I was able to get her right as her tricycle came to the front, so she wasn't waiting for me at all. Like, I pulled up, she pulled up, it was perfect. We loaded up the car and we drove north. We had been talking about maybe going to Masatepe and we have a huge custom bird cage made for a loro, for a parrot, but we decided not to get that today. For those who don't know, we are kind of adopting a 27-year-old green parrot. They live to about 30, so this one's very aged. And it needs a good home, it needs space, and so we're putting in a big cage and moving it into the house, and hopefully it gets along with the dogs and the cat pretty well. It does talk, so I'm sure he'll be on the show. Gordy, I believe is his name, and I'm sure you'll get to meet him coming up pretty soon. But we decided not to get that cage today. We decided to make no stops on the way home. Dominica was like kind of hungry, and she's like, I don't have the energy to get out of the car. The only thing I would consider eating is a quesillo, and we didn't pass a quesillo place because, like, the drive, this is ridiculous that it exists, that from Costa Rica all the way to Leon, you essentially never go past anything. That's of course not true. You do go through Rivas early on in the drive, but you go through like the billboard strip and not through like where all the things you would stop at are for the most part. Definitely not through like the core city that people think of as Rivas. So there's not too much to stop for there, and definitely not things that draw our attention. And then of course you go through Jinotepe and Didiambra, which are together. And that's a strip of things. But if you're not looking for what's out on the strip, which is mostly fancy restaurant, not fancy, mostly sit down, take time restaurants, or of course asada places, then it doesn't really work out. And once you're through there, you're basically just a highway all the way to Leon. Because of the Managua bypass, you never go through the main municipal area of the capital. So even though you're really close to things, actually getting food on the road on that particular trip is kind of hard. You bypass everything in La Paz Centro, everything in Nagarote, everything in Managua itself, all the things you would expect, because they're all built on the old highway. And the two new highways, it's the new Leon Carretera and the new Managua bypass, when combined together, bypasses everything, which is handy. It makes the trip very fast and efficient, but it definitely makes it a little bit hard for people wanting to stop and get food. If you're willing to stop and like take time, then you have options. And it's not a problem at all. But if you eat meat, obviously it's much easier. For those of us who are vegetarian and you need to stop really, really quickly and only have a few things you want to stop for, not easy at all. So we got all the way back to Leon, ordered food once we got into Leon and had that delivered. And it's nice having my wife home. It is the first that I've seen her in 2 months. She's been in Vietnam, Thailand, Laos, and Cambodia. So she spent the whole evening decompressing and unpacking, and super tired because she's got jet lag and has been traveling all day, right? She was in Texas this morning, and this is actually the longest that she and I have gone without seeing each other since the day we met. Not since we started dating, not since we got married, since the day we met, June 9th, 2001, at Phil Ayers' wedding, where I was best man and she was attending. We met at the wedding, and then we probably went like 2 weeks without seeing each other, if that. And then I know we were hanging out by July 4th, which it was the July 4th fireworks, so it was like July 3rd in Ithaca, New York. So the maximum we had gone without seeing each other was like 2 weeks. And there's been like, at some point, we traveled and went several weeks without seeing each other in the last 22 years. But this was 2 months without seeing each other, by far double, at least, the longest we've gone, well, almost. She went to, that was her longest, is she went to England with our niece, Madeline, in 2018. So 5 years ago, it's hard to believe that was 5 years ago, she went to England, did that trip, and I had to stay back with everyone. And so that was the longest at the time by quite a bit. Before that, in 2014, she had done a week trip without me, and in 2009 I did a 10-day trip to Europe without her. Those were kind of our big blocks of time in all those years. Once in a while there was like a week where she was in Texas or something to see family and I wasn't there, but that's been about it. We had no big block of time like this, so it was kind of an adventure. It was like our vacation from each other for the first time in almost a quarter century. And she brought back, I have new equipment. It's going to be fun to start using on the show. It's going to be a while before I start integrating things in. I have a new gimbal, which I have to figure out if I can use it with the GoPro. I got it for the GoPro. Of course, as I got it, the instant I bought it, they made one for the GoPro instead of one I have to jury rig to the GoPro. So I'm not super thrilled about the timing on that. Same vendor, same everything. Same features, the reason that I got it. But I'm looking forward to playing with that because I think we're going to get some cool footage, some cool new effects, just a whole new look for the show when I use that. But I got to figure out how to make it like really work. I got to make it efficient. And the real reason we got it is for filming houses because there's just some complications to using the GoPro stabilization while filming indoors. And so we think, hopefully we can fix it with this. And it's kind of a test. If this really works, we'll get the better one in the future when it's available and when we're back in the States and all that. I got a few new lights, which is very cool. I'm always in need of lights. I got multiple portable battery lights. Like right now I'm using one of the lights I got from a previous time because it's super dark, so hopefully you can see me. And it's not supposed to be dark. This is a storm, right? It's stopped raining for the moment, but you can hopefully hear the thunder a little bit. So I'm lit to help offset that, but I got some much bigger lights to go because I just need them for all my studio stuff, and I'm gonna start figuring out how to mount them on the GoPro and do more flexible lighting and stuff. So I'm excited about that. I got a really big 110 watt studio light. For those who watch my show, you know, sometimes I film at night, very rarely. I try to avoid it for the most part, but I have a 60 watt massive studio light that I use for that now, and it works pretty well. But you really need at least 2 studio lights, and 60 watts is not that much. I now have added 110, so I now have a total studio setup of 170 watts instead of 60. You're gonna notice, plus accent lighting that I gotta figure out how to use, but I have it. And my new antique vintage CCD digital camera has arrived. I'm gonna be talking about that on Camera Cafe more than here, but I did get it. I'm not gonna say what it is yet, but I am very excited. I've been playing with it. And then the big ticket item is the Insta360 Go 3 Super Miniature Action Cam, which I've used a little bit here and there. I'm already starting to use it for the shorts. I like it better than using my phone, and I think it's gonna be really cool. Like, I'm learning how I can use it. I'm very new to this size camera. It's kind of like when you first get a GoPro, you're like, okay, it's just a camera. And then after using it for a while, you're like, oh, there's all these things I can do because I have a GoPro. Like, it changes how you interact with it. Same thing with the Go 3. I know how to go out and take pictures with it, but thinking about that I have it and thinking about grabbing it and having a workflow with it and thinking about ways I can use it to go film, because I can put it places I couldn't do other things. I can stick it to things. It's magnetic. You can go around and just pop it places. It's so small, so quick and easy. Hopefully I'm going to have it with me more often. I got to get a case for it, but I can carry it around and be like, oh, I'm just doing a thing. I can really quickly do shorts or whatever. I don't have to have a phone. I don't have to have anything. I can just hold it, talk, and done. So I am looking forward to learning more about that, experimenting with that, and bringing you guys more content with more cameras. Like, partially that's just fun for me, but hopefully it's also fun for you. Thanks for joining me. Please remember to like and subscribe. If you'd like to help support the channel, that would be very much appreciated. I'm gonna put the link above. It's buymeacoffee.com/ScottAllenMiller. Of course, if you're looking for information on relocation, anything to help you with moving to Nicaragua, whether it's just questions about, should I move? Does this make sense for me? How would this work? info@relocatenicaragua.com. As always, take the link of this episode, pop it into social media on Reddit, put it on LinkedIn, put it on Twitter, Facebook, obviously, Threads, Instagram, whatever. Get the word out. Tell people about the show. You're talking to someone about Nicaragua or travel or relocation. Send them a link. Tell them about the show. Tell family, friends. Look, I'm looking at this thing. Check this guy out. Help support his channel. Just every like, every view leave it playing in the background, go down, leave a comment below, ask your questions, all that stuff. The more you interact, the better the show does. Thanks for joining me. I will see all of you tomorrow.